I think so. Minute. I think there also, right? Oh, I say okay. Check. Hello. No, it's still too low, right? Oh, I think it's not this, man. You need the. Oh my. Really? What's yours? Okay.
Can you hear me? I'm listening, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I can't hear myself, but I think I can hear you.
Okay. Good evening. So we're going to do prayer first. This page 7, Manjushri's prayer. Page 7. I pay homage to the Guru and the Protector Manjushri. Your intellect is completely pure and utterly clear, like the sun, free from the clouds of the true obscurations. You hold a born volume at your heart center, because you see all things exactly as they are and in their extent. Whoever is in the pursuit of existence, satisfied by the darkness of ignorance and pained by suffering, you love all the mass of beings like your only child. Your speech that possesses the 60 types of melodies roars mightily like a dragon. Thus you awaken the slave of afflictions and release the checklist of karma. You brandish sword, thus you dispel the darkness of ignorance and sever all possible sufferer of suffering. Pro-morally pure, you have reached the 10 premise, and your embodiment of good qualities is complete. The body of the chief of the conqueror's sons is adorned by 120 signs. To dispel the darkness of my mind, I bow down to Manjushri. Om Arapasanade, Om Arapasanade, Om Arapasanade, Om Arapasanade, Om Arapasanade. By the light rays of your supreme loving knowledge, utterly display my mind's darkness delusion. Please bestow the light of confident intellect for completion of the text of economy. Okay. So now we're going to do the teaching from the Mahayana teaching. Follow the root text. Page, maybe starting page 17 or 18, just English is 18. Okay, so in this Mahayana teaching has the root text is Jigten Sumgon's root text. There's many commentaries, but they're very big volumes. So I'll make short explain for the root text. So that's why this name is short, concise, right? Short or concise explanation of Jigten Sumgon's. So the Jigten Sumgon actually he didn't write down, but his disciple write down. You know, his teaching. So Jigten Sumgon's teaching. This one homage to the Manjushri. So this means this book talk about more focusing for bodhisattvas view part, also part of conduct. They have two different ways teaching, first homage to the Buddha, homage to the Manjushri, homage to the Buddha and the bodhisattvas. Only can do three different ways. So homage to the Buddha, that means that book teach only the karma cause and the effect. Homage to the Manjushri means they have lots of things in there. So you need wisdom. Homage to the bodhisattva means they talk about only the bodhicitta part. So Manjushri, homage Manjushri means they talk not only karma cause and effect, not only love and compassion, they talk lots in their teachings. So next time you need to know the homage to Manjushri, that book talks lots, many different topics. Okay. Teni tandila yang tabar zobo sanje namje shikhoru songu yorwa. Ta yang tabar zobo sanje namje shikhoru zodin debe sanje tsama. Teni chin tene chila tene sanje yore la ko yore. Pen tikchin tembe nyimbo nalo la sanje ke song yawa ke ta kanjor tada ngaso ngison thong de ya ke kanjor pod jando wa. Tenjo pod nyibja yore tso chasang ke nyimbo de na yore. Te yin sa debe sanje 남지 시켜라는 데베 산제 탐제 람딜 때는 냠린 나네 상제와 차다 차게 요레스 데니 다다르게 산제 예나양 데니 간다르 티진 템비 님보 낭 데나나 소와나 이 냠리세는 산제지 고마트고 요레 마옹부 산제 예나양 다다 데니 소와나 이 냠리세는 상제지 고마토고르 마도 빠게 데나는 송 야와 마인 빠게 람 예발레 때는 산제지 고만 토야 요 마레 존 타제게 요레스 대인들 내부사 조부 산제 남지 시효 소야 대리 동다데.
So first it says, I will here unpack the meaning of what can be described as the single path that all the true and perfectly awakened Buddhas have treaded. So this is the path that all the Buddhas of the past have practiced, and depending on which they have attained enlightenment. So it is called the essence of the teachings of the Mahayana Teachings, because there are, for example, the Gangyo, the sutras, the Buddha's words, they consist of 100 volumes, and then the Dengyo, which is the commentaries on those. There are 200 of those volumes, so there's many volumes, but this teaching is the essence of all these Gangyo and Dengyo teachings, of all these scriptures. And so because it is the essence of all the teachings, the Buddhas of the past have practiced only that and have attained enlightenment, depending on only that. And also the Buddhas who attain enlightenment now practice that and attain enlightenment on the basis of that. And the Buddhas of the future will practice only this path, this essence, and attain enlightenment. And that is that because this is the essence. So there is no other path. There's no other path that will lead to enlightenment. So that is the essence of the entire path.
And 사단 람란네 비 jarse namji dolam sondata sangje simba sanje chasangyang lamdeltine ani sanje je koma toya chaga yorla tenaji je tada ani nepe sanjo samba 사단 람란네 데와 sanje 당에서 상제 미나야 사단 람란네 데 jarse ani toba julche de sanjo samba teso chasang ani chinde tawe nyamlin sene deltene toba julche ge yorese ani 타바 탐진 쳔바 돈 여러 까르딘 남진 용어 송고 요런 가랑소 타바 탐진 쳔바 돈된 연계는 가랑소래 ani 가랑소 다 람디 타브 냠린 세와예는 가랑소 까르딘 차게 요르 까르딘 라야 까와다 덴베 쳔베데 가랑소 차게 요르 데니 가랑소 람딜라 로스 람가데타 람 마나와데 데리 송고 요르 ani 테나진 쳔게 짜주제 라마 담바 남제 투공 송도와 데니 라마 Yonzo zoba ke togu gomba te ta pechan de nan song yawa na yin che ke nyamlin nang ne teni de ma semji thamje la eni thok sewa chimbi ta ninji goni semji thamje la landor ko lam te ya te eni tadan de te nyeng nan song yawa de tearang cha de yores thok gomba de arang res eni kalong doju tenji menga thamje ji chu de pa song de ta da kong shi chaware pen kalong doju chama ke nyimbo rawo te te nyeng di nalo de de yos tani de che ma sheya la pecha chama kar she na yang this som kar she go yore thomar gewa le je tons barji gewa yongdo thamar gewa yog tons ne sabje number som go khons eni chi sheya chasang te ta de lesson som nalo le den she go yores e de yin de tambo thomar gewa le ge ton la ya te che ya yens.
So then it says, the path which the children of the Buddhas, the bodhisattvas, are currently traversing. So just like what we mentioned before, just like the Buddhas who have attained enlightenment on the basis of this path, so in the same way also the bodhisattvas who abide on the various bhumis and the paths, they attain enlightenment, they attain realization on the basis of these teachings, of this path. And then the entrance way for the fortunate disciples yearning for liberation and omniscient Buddhahood. So those fortunate disciples here refers to us, the practitioners, so those who practice this path, those are very fortunate. And then the enlightened wisdom of all the Buddha's teachings and the holy commentaries, the sutras, tantras, and transmitted oral teachings all rolled into one. So this is the essence. This text is the essence of the enlightened mind of all the masters of the past, all the lineage gurus, and all the teachings of the enlightened mind of the Buddhas. And so that mind is love, great love and compassion for all sentient beings. And with that, the Buddhas have shown them the path of what to do and what not to do to sentient beings. And that this essence of the Mahayana teachings is the essence of this entire path. And so it is as you mentioned before, the essence of the sutras and the tantras and the commentaries. And then there are 3 sections here, traditionally referred to as virtue in the beginning, the introductory section, virtue in the middle, the main body of the text, and virtue at the end, the concluding sections. So every text is divided into 3 sections. That is which are virtues in all its sections. And so it begins with the introductory and preliminary section, then the main part, and then the conclusion. And so first we begin with the virtue in the beginning, the introductory section.
Mangsa shogoya re ta togon tisu ke nang mare tende yin de chirtang sa sap jo la ya sung yore lam nga si sap jo dan lam nga sung ya tende yore si ani sap jo la ya te sa tambo ni sa chip par de la teni sa la go yore te la don tam sa jo samba la ya te sa tambo ni to pa sa jo samba la don tam sa jo samba la ya cha go yore ngaran so kin job ka sa jo samba cha to go yore kar se ta sa ni de ni ma songyo ne kabla sanjo simbe nyamling kabse sanjo simbe domba sheya yore te domba te lama yena teni sanjo simba la ya te ngarang so chagyo yore si teni ngarang so kinjob ko sanjo simba chagyo yore ma to ba ke dondam ko sanjo simba te chagyo yo mare dondam ko sanjo sim la ya te domba sine nyamse se lenya yo mare lama tang to so ko nei se lenya yo mare dondam sanjo sim la ya te rang gom gone gom jam do ne teni nyamling ka ne che go yore dondam sanjo sim la ya te 인데 돈담 산초 셈라야데 사 담보니 체게 요래 사 담보니 사 찌바 그 바르데 요 산초 셈바데 솔라 돈담 산초 셈바라고 요래 데니 람라 네베조데 람라야데라 nenkin yena kinzo ku sanjo sambayan yore la dondam ku sanjo sambayan yore ni cha yu chogu yore thela lam ne wa yena lam la pen cholam da jolam zo ni yore tela ne sanjo sambayan na kinzo ku sanjo samba cha ge yore enen thonglam da gomlam da malob lam lam ne som ya yung ge yore tela ne sanjo sambayan na ene dondam sanjo samba cha ge yore o tene zo da yewa 사당 람라야 되던데스니 얘는 예바센의 시에고가 요르 뜻소 도공 뜻소근 당가 요 말에 대인데 대참행.
So before we just mentioned the bodhisattvas that who traverse the path. So there's those bhumis and the path that we traverse, and actually that would actually require some more explanation, but we don't have enough time tonight. But in brief, there are the 10 bhumis and 5 paths, and the 10 bhumis from the first until the 10th bhumi. That is the level, it refers to the level of the ultimate bodhisattvas. And so a relative bodhisattva has not reached any of the bhumis. So for example, a bodhisattva on the relative level is, for example, tomorrow we will later take the bodhisattva vow, for example, and having taken that vow, and then we actually, and practicing that, then actually we become bodhisattvas on the relative level, but not ultimate bodhisattvas. So for the ultimate bodhicitta, actually there is no vow or so to take, nothing formal to take, but it arises having cultivated meditation. It arises from meditation practice. So this is the first to the 10th bhumi, that is the ultimate bodhisattva. And then the paths, however, the bhumis and the paths are different. So the bhumis are only for the ultimate bodhisattvas, and then the paths, on the paths actually both the relative and the ultimate bodhisattvas abide. Because on the two lower paths, the path of accumulation and the path of application, on those two paths actually, that is the level of the relative bodhisattvas. And then starting from the path of seeing, and then the path of meditation, and then the path of normal learning, that is the path of the ultimate bodhisattvas. So normally that would maybe require more time to explain, but for time reasons we leave it at that.
And 다 토마르 게발레 돈 라야 대시야 옌스 토마르 게발레 돈 라야 때라 인 체인동 단 줄산이 요래 체인동 대 가르세나 다다 테네 티칭 템빈 힘보 라는 맹테 따고 요래 티칭 템빈 힘보 테네 티칭 라야 때 네게 나로 그 마란조 냠린 세븐네 갑라 산조 셈그치 생송아 예나 네나게 냠린 차상데 티바 침비치 차토고 요래 티칭 라야 들어와 tikpa chechong laya te sanju semgutsi senda mazeng khani yogo go yore chitang pecha yong khani yang de teaching ge yong ri de tikpa chung yong ri lamne lavya yore kana kaisen sosor tower rek deng to sola tikpa chung yong la go yore dorwakan yong to sola ene sanju sembun dode to sola teaching la go yore te yena yang dadan de ge nalon ni sheidang de ene sanju semgutsi sensongwa yena chi yong so zoba te teaching chan ro go yore 근데 특히 차가 여러스 땡변 힘볼라디 산제가 송야바다 다다 고는시 자바르 힘보 나오던데 나는 송고 요스 근데 조잘 때는 맹 따바 양 송고 요르 맹 따वन 내가 딱 서로 망보 요르 맹 가시 산제가 맹 따원 내가 사자 송사다가 맹 따 요거 요르 배자들라 까깔 쇼와포테가 야 산제를 지야 신킹가 간사 디 맹데마 배자들 따 야소 요르 근데 까깔 책이 때니 유지 책을 가는 맹다 야와 요런데 조자 돈을 띠는 맹다 야와 양이 송고 요르 띠 힘본다고 빼자 그 돈다 될라 띠되는 띠니 맹다 따 야와래 되는 인데 조자를 띠는 맹다 바오 송고 요르 단 줄사 될라 산제다 산조 섬바 탐제라 산설로 송고 요르 아니 산제 다 상라야 돼 말한소 드미 박자다 지바 파상 제라야 돼 또부 이시 차상서 제용화 될라 산제라고 요르 산제 상제생화 빵자 차상 빵자와 또부 이시 차상 또 자와텔 산제지 애니 산초 선발라데 다 람르 네바 텔라 고고 요르 다다 고노 끈조구 산초 선바 요르 동남구 산초 선바 요르 니시에서 산초 선바 데 탐제라 데니 산설게 예인스 다데 줄사 라야 때당 데니 생동 라야 데니 가레 동단 송고 요르라나 메인 따고고 요르 빼찰라 메인 마타와 예나 애니 촌도고 요르 논도고 요르 데네 인데 산제 좀 된데게 애니 빼차듯이 차상은 맹따 요레스 데 맹따 야와테게 애니 간자 왕보 랍도 좋아예나 데네 생동의 로바 잠지 용 나로를 빼자 가래 차상시에 유 차상 하고 도고 요ren 빼자 용 차상 로고야 요 말이 생동 집을 로잖아 왕보 라게 되니 나로고 주자 차상 하고 도고 요래 왕보 랭게양 얘네 당달 네 빼자데 용 가래 콘소 도근도 너 가래 콘소 도근도 더 차상지 하고 그 요래 빼는 너로 콘소 도근도 너디 콘소 도근도 몽보 콘소 도근도 치 강그 콘소 도 되니 타마양 간자데게 링맘 짤 라와송고 요래 아주 다 티칭 템베니 뭐 빼자도 코르쇼 라는 간자데게 람상 뇨요는 뇨레 라와 되니 제 맹따 여와 텔레티는 노멀로와 토멀로와 어떤데 그바다 짐신 솜다오 차고 요래 간자 왕보 랍도 저와던 랭다 타마 솜 덴델레티는 맹따 여와 송고 요래 애니 산차를 라야 됐다 네 가인스나 산차를 라야 될 짐신 망보 요래 잡고 갑제 그 사라야 니마 보그 애니 마 빼차 주르네 갑라 야가니 보라 애니 잡고 트라파진 그다 까그제네 고 템제와래 데 템제는 갑라 단 너데 그 소소 또바트서 차상대 산제다 산조서 마탐제라 산차바 꾸고스 애니 다다 네 빼차 때 드와 영송아예나 애니 산제라 산차바도 꾸고스 애니 빼자 용등 옹바 영송아예나 애니 잠바양라 산차바 꾸고스 애니 덴데스네 다 자고 갑제 그 제자와 로지요래 어디나지 다다데 용데 되니 다 티치 택바 최종이는 택바 첨부 디나로니 애니 데누송고 나로니 다 조처는 너데게 소소 또고 요래 조 치시게 너데의 효치야 시용고 요래 대선은 산제다 산조서 마탄제를 산철로 송고 요래
So it begins with the first part, the introductory section. And so it says the text begins with an explanation of the meaning of the title, followed by words of veneration and homage. So there's these two parts to the introduction. So first there's the explanation of the title, the meaning of the title. And so it is it's explained in those three languages, the essence of the Mahayana teachings. And so actually, it is said that now the Mahayana, explaining this term Mahayana, calling something a Mahayana teaching, so actually once one has cultivated bodhicitta, whatever one practices, all practices actually naturally become Mahayana. So whether or not teaching becomes Mahayana depends on whether or not one has given rise to bodhicitta. And of course, we do often say that this is a Mahayana text or this is a Hinayana text and so on. We can also say that. But here it is more depending on whether or not we have cultivated bodhicitta. So when we talk about make a division between general Mahayana and Hinayana texts, for example, there are certain texts like in the Pratimoksha, there which explains the 7 types of like Pratimoksha vow holders. The Vinaya teachings, so that, for example, is a Hinayana text. And then all the various scriptures that explain on bodhicitta and the bodhisattvas, that is a Mahayana text. And so here it is more talking about that whether or not one has cultivated bodhicitta. And if one has cultivated bodhicitta, then all Dharma actually becomes Mahayana. So therefore it can be said that it is the essence of all the Buddha's teachings. So then in general also there's a reason why the name is explained, why there is a certain title given to a text. And so sometimes a title, the text derives its title from the place where it originates, so it has the name of that place. And sometimes the text has the name of the person who requested the teachings on that text, and then it has that name, that title. And then sometimes the title expresses the actual the content, what is actually in words, what is actually the meaning that is complete within that text. And so this text is the essence of the Mahayana teachings. And so it says then then in the root text, homage to all the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas on the next page. And so this word Buddha here, it says Sang Ye in Tibetan. So the Buddha is someone who has cleared away the two types of imprints or these habitual tendencies, and whose wisdom is expansive, whose realization is expansive. So someone who has perfected all the qualities of realization and has abandoned all faults. So such is a Buddha, has cleared away all ignorance. And so so here we are prostrating to those Buddhas and also the bodhisattvas, and those are the bodhisattvas on the relative and the ultimate level that we mentioned before. So then there is a reason for actually giving it a title at all, so in general, of a text, because if there is no name, then it can easily be mistaken for something. So all the texts have a certain name for that reason. And also the name means something different depending on one's mental capacity. For example, for someone of highest mental capacities, actually someone like that only looks at the name of the title of the text and already understands the entire meaning within that. And that person doesn't even have to read the text. Only seeing the title, he understands everything already. And so that's the highest mental capacity. And then the middling mental capacity is that such a person, when they look at this title and then the homage to, like the words of homage, this introductory part, then they will know how to classify these teachings. So for example, based on looking at this homage to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, they can define which scripture collection it belongs to, either the sutras or the Abhidharma or the Vinaya. And then those of the least mental capacity, based on having a name, because there is a name, at least it's easy to find. So if you tell them find this text, they can find it because they know the title. So there is a purpose for the name, that is understood in different ways for people with different mental capacities. And so then this system of paying homage in these three different ways, that comes from the old days when first the scriptures were translated and brought to Tibet from India. And at that time, the Tibetan king Rinpoche, he made a law, and he commanded that all the texts that now have been newly translated must be classified in a certain way. And that is, the classification happens in the beginning when we first pay homage. So in the homage, it must be clear where that text belongs to. So that was the law that this king proposed. So he said that all the sutras must begin with this homage to Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Then all the Vinaya texts begin with homage to the Buddha. And then all the Abhidharma texts begin with homage to Manjushri. And so in this way it was classified. So it was very clear which different scripture collection a certain text belongs to. And so this, the Mahayana Teachings belongs mainly, of those three scripture collections, mainly belongs to the collection of the Sutra teachings.
Subject tambo tomar geva log leg ton la ya de shi sing pare ene ni ba yongdong de che ya yen si da ni ba yongdong de la subject ka she je yore de na lo la shi zi chi ye go dong do chu ba la ya che dang sam zi chi ye nu chu sar wa la ya da treng de ni de shi cha ba re e de yin de ni de da da shi go go yore da yongdong de na lo la zo che mang chi ji de yongdong na lo yong go yore. And Shiza Chi Dondo Chobate, Tambo Shiz Chi Le, Tambo Lama Satsur to Chagoyori, Shiza Chi Yaganalon, Shigoyak Chi Yoris in the part Chin Yamlin sinking so Shigo race in the Yada. Then it Shigoya the Kararis in a Tambo Lama Sat Shigo race. Then it Tetsaya Tella Yong Nalola, Yong Les on the Titsasek Nalola, Yanda Lamton, sending Lama Sara Songoyore. And in Aranso Tache. Pende tamjejin yone zobo sanjeji kompan dopan doba kardin namla zode ta ngaran zo chama chi sanjeji kompan toya dongde nya de yore e dende yinde dende sanjeji kompan dongde nya king gaza tela ta med mrong chi de gewsheni yogo yore gewsheni mena ene sanjeji kompan toya yomare tambo chi nyamni sevne kala lamal ting go yore Lama Kandre Chile Tingo Gre, Lanatin, in Dot Dipa Nalola, Sanjay Song Yor, Dot Dipa Laya, Peja, Ta Sanjay Rang Song Yajo Peja Chagure. and Tinalola, Laman Kebata la ta the Timbarsas, Laman Kebachi Latin Gogres, the Junda, and it Jimsi Kangisar Shivayena, and then Laman Keba Latina, then Kebe Yundinde, and it's Latine, and it Lomatelan Keba Chagres, and it Chilaya the Tambu Nyamli Mazem and Shigogres, and it Chi the Shigo, the Chishinking Lamachi Latin Gogres on a Kebe Yundi, Telen Jones on it. And Tadande Keba go laya de Druan Dodeng Mumba som the Jana, Denu som the Jana and Deke Yorela. And it in Ajike Pena Tiba Chunga, Tiba Chambo, Na zone som the Janishena and Deke Yore. Lama Kandich Latima Yena Yang, and it Chion in Kebayon de Gonki Latin Gogres. And it Sedata song go Yurta, Sedata Lama Chion in Keba in Kinchila, Sedata Yang. Jude Ranang Soso Pecha Karayina take up the young Yonte Resong Yungo Yuri Sedaka Yonte. Duru Caps Lamate, Kandachi Gogo Yolana, Sitem number Tabachi Gogo Yure. Landor Chen Sam Mandavas, Lapatan Demba song Yunde, in Druak Lecho Mambo Yure. And in Druak let so Shinkin Jack. And it to so Nyamlin Nanki Kansachi Gogo Yures, Labata Demba. The Nugga Kansachi Gogo Yure. And it to so Shinkin Gogo Yure young. Laba la Nankin Yena, Mashinkin Yena, and in the Kyo Mares, then the Kepachi goes on Yata Chik Chagayure. And it taking the caps, Ninja Tagpe, Yendon Cord Chevas, Guyure, taking Lamatella Goya Chagayurela. That taking the Ninja Yoba Chibuk and the Kyo Mare. Young Koram teaching Yon Kepachi Goguyure. Data. And then Haji Caps review just another Dembas on Guyur, Hagi Jiram the Zoram to Solamaki Juba Yunki, Kanzachi, to Sotes Nyamlin Nanki. And it take Nyamlin Nayate and Kandeji Nyamlin Nango Yumi to so Chasang Shinking Lamachi, the Nuji Sumayena, and it are Cho the Churpa and Rap the Churpa. That Pechan and the song Javakatane, that Nasol Tatan de Lama de Tavate. And then Lama Cho the Chivate, Pena Pemsung Rao Shiva in the Lama Marpa Losa Lion or that and reject Chan of Yure. Then our Lamaji Soayan and Cho the Chivacha Yures, or the Nuga Lama Chilla Tingo Gores, Tesung Yure.
So then, as next is the second part 2, the main body of the teachings. And so within that, the main teaching can be divided into sections. These are cutting through misconceptions, through knowing the 4 dharmas, dispelling the faults of being an unfit vessel through 4 attitudes, accomplishing the nectar essence of the teachings through 4 trainings, and assimilating the essence of the teachings through meditating on the 5-fold path. So first there is those 4 dharmas. Of which today, previously, we have mentioned the first 2 of these 4. So the first one is finding a lama. First, we must find a lama that we rely on in order to engage in practice, in order to be able to engage in practice at all. So it is that look for a qualified lama who can show you the authentic spiritual path. And so such a lama, it says, a sublime spiritual guide is the source of all benefit and happiness, without whom it would be impossible to attain enlightenment. And so we all strive to attain enlightenment, and in order to attain enlightenment, spiritual teacher, a guide, is indispensable. Without such a guide, we cannot attain enlightenment. So we must rely on a spiritual guide, a teacher. And so then it says in a sutra, the condensed perfection of wisdom, which was said by the Buddha himself, qualified lamas must always be relied upon. The reason is that all knowledge and accomplishments ensue from them. And so that is, if a disciple relies on the guru and adopts the guru's knowledge and accomplishments, then also the disciple becomes actually a master with knowledge and accomplishments. And so in order to adopt these qualities, one must rely on a teacher who knows these particular teachings, the Dharma, of the various 3 scripture collections. You can say of the Vinaya, Abhidharma, and the Sutras, and also of the, or we can say of the Mahayana, Hinayana, and the Tantras. And so each of these different texts explains different qualities on the guru, the lama that we should rely on, or the teacher we should rely on. For example, in the level of the Vinaya, it is said that the spiritual teacher, the lama, must have the quality of pure ethical discipline and has not transgressed the vows and conduct. So such the lama, according to the Vinaya teachings, must possess a perfect this ethical discipline, a pure ethical discipline, and must also be knowledgeable about, abide in accordance with the law of cause and effect. Must train in that, and also must know about that. So it means that it's not enough just to practice that, but also they must know the scriptures of the Vinaya teachings, for example. So they must be skilled in both the training, or the practice, and also the scriptures. And then for the Mahayana, at the level of the Mahayana, the lama we seek must have pure compassion. And then bear the burden and responsibility to accomplish only others' benefit. And then again, only compassion alone is also not enough. Also, such a master must be skilled in the teachings, the text of the Mahayana. And then in the Mantrayana, on the level of the Mantrayana, the lama is imbued with the blessings of the lineage of the stages of practice. So the stages of the creation and the completion stages. He must be skilled and also be a practitioner of these practices. So he must know about these practices and also be skilled in actually practicing them. And so to give an example of such a supreme lama who possesses all those qualities that we should rely on, for example, that is the Guru Marpa. So on such a lama with all these qualities, you must rely.
다들 힘보 나오더 뭐지 다능성 나서 다 너와가 값을 시에거나 변나 얘는 세와 방케 그 라마지로와 얘는 세와 방와 소철거리 송송 되네 다 산주 선버 값을 송와예나 변나 닌제 용킨제 아니 하지 값을 송와예나 다 지름도서 그 동달 하공긴 도서 냠린 안긴 된르직 송와예나 되게 요래 송의 다낭 뭐지 송 다 너드는 된르 자가 요래
So today before Rinpoche actually explained the essence of this, and so he said that according to the Vinaya teachings, a guru must at least give up hurting or harming others. On the bodhisattva vehicle, he must have compassion, and on the tantric vehicles, he must know about the creation and completion stages, and also be skilled in its practice. So that is in brief what Rinpoche already explained.
아니 대올다 라마다 자와치부 그 팽도 용어 말아 자와나 자르찬 라마텔 띵고 그요래 시즈 진이바데 자그 요래 시고야 진이바데 라마 자와치부 마이바 띵고 그요래 데네 땡서데 간도 고고 요래 람나 교미 게베 똥버까진도 송요래 다 드준도 코 라마테게 땡문네갑라 쪼와메바 Any linga is some shame the Kibata Chipagon thing goyatang. Any lama take a song Java Landor Tambichi Sombanam Sanjay song gender Rangin Yams Lingo Yores. Then this Sevayena Ranjila Pinto Chimbo Yunga Yore them lama te Matima Yena. Any lama take a rang like pink toya cabo yore. Tainsana lama like Tepazang Kipa Mi Swayena Mugi Mebayena Rang Jula Singlam Jukuyomare. And this Singlam Manjowayena Rang Ju the Surgeon Chitoguyoma, Surgeon Chi Lamna Naran Sotadan Jekting, then it saw a lot of shock Kimboche saw the Yore. Then Jekting a lot of Sir Donan, then it chill at Sir Casogo Yore, lot of Tambuchil at Sir Casogo Yore. Lord Tambuchil Cats Soya La, any Lama take a Singlam Jogo Yore. Or the day in the Lama te Jongar Mebugone don't. And
so then once we have found such a teacher, again it is not enough to just have found such a teacher. Once we have found the teacher, we also must rely on the teacher. So the second point then on page 22 explains how to rely on the Lama. And so it says in the root text, with devotion that never grows weary, practice in accordance with the instructions of the Buddha, the teacher. So without a feeling of weariness or feeling, like without growing tired, we should rely on the Guru respectfully with body, speech, and mind. And that means we heed the Guru's words, the teachings on the Holy Dharma, on what to do and what not to do, and then also to practice according to these instructions. And that will be of benefit to us. But if we do not rely on the Lama in this way, then also the Lama cannot really benefit us. So although the Lama possesses blessings, if we do not give rise to devotion, then we cannot receive those blessings. They cannot enter our mind. So when the blessings, if the blessings do not enter our mind, then our mind cannot transform. For example, now we have created a very strong mindset, a worldly state of mind. And that first must be turned towards the Dharma, must be changed towards the Dharma. And it is turned towards the Dharma by receiving the Lama's blessings. So in order to receive those blessings, therefore, with tirelessly, therefore, and with devotion, we should rely on the Guru.
Tene teko tela ta lama nipa thap te song yung gore. Nipa thap tela sanzeng ze tang sugi drupen chu song de tasil song doa. Ene sanzeng ze la ya te ngaran so ta yoji me pa go ne song yore. Yoji me pa la ding gogor tang dewa tang ene chunchi tang lopun chowa la so ba tendre ma yin pa song yore. Lopun chowa la na tene chi dang man theng go ne nga chi pam yor la so ban drop ne ene lamal phu yung at so la lopun chowa la go yore. Chi dang man theng wa tene chi dang thing pa se dang ge dang ma dang min la so ba thamar ke sanzeng ke je ke chupa la go yore. Sanzeng ke je ke chupa lam na ge da se la so ban chupa be ya de la sanzeng ke chupa che te chupa ta tambo kanza pen na chi nyamlin nam ma thom ki yena ten chupa ten de chi sin la ma del ting go yore che ene kanza reng daw yena tam te ba tang do ba tang yek chi pa te be go ne reng lenga ke se yin yi ko se song yore tene lama ke shabdo pen le da nga la so ba go ne lama shabdo se ya tab cho de chwa yena ene lama ke danga la thisam gomsom se wa ten cho de chwa re rap drupen chupa se so chasan chupa ko khonson ro go yore lama tengwa kaps loma teke ene ten sorta kanza thamar watang kanza drengda kanza chodo chowa som ga kande silne lama tengo la na ten sor som khane song yaware.
And then the third point is how to please the Lama on page 24. And so in the root text it says, venerate the Lama with material offerings, service of body and speech, and practice. So there's three types of attending to or pleasing, offering to the Lama. And the first one is the material offerings. And so when we make offerings to the Lama, material offerings, it must be an offering that is not obtained through deception or deceiving others, that is not obtained through like a wrong, like a corrupt livelihood, something that is not in accordance with the Dharma, like a non-virtuous way of obtaining that wealth and so on. So such is not a proper offering, a material offering to be made to the Guru. So it is that it has to be obtained in accordance with the Dharma. For example, material things such as food, clothing, bedding, household items, medicine, jewels, and so forth. And so these material offerings are the lowest form of offering. So for those who have no opportunity to practice the Dharma, they make these material offerings. And then second, for the person with a medium capacity, is the offering of the service of body and speech. To offer with faith of admiration, longing, and trust, so the three types of faith, offer service with the body and the speech. That is the middling form of offering. And then the third one, the supreme form of offering or pleasing the Lama, that is to actually contemplate and practice and put into practice the instructions that one has received from that Lama. And that is the greatest way of pleasing, or the greatest offering we can make to the Lama. So we rely on the Lama in those three different ways, either according to the capacity of an ordinary being, being with medium capacity, or a being with supreme capacity.
Te all the Shigoya Chi Naloni Sumbate Shigo Yoresi. Teni Lamatin Tisam Sigo Yore. Tan Chuba Chibu Pideva Chibu and the Yomar Tisam Sigo Yor. Tisam Savayang, Yong Nalola, any Lelo Ne Pang, Tondin Tisam Sa Sungo Yore, Lelo Pango Gores. Lelo Pang Doni, Tondan Dempe Tisam Sigores. Naranso Jindin Lelo Namyan Command Doko Yore. Then Lelo Namyan Command Maroa. Any Lama Tema Nekabla Zondi Sigo Gores. Dondin Zondi Tondan Demba Chakayore. Perna Tadak Pardal Naranso COVID Nes Chivalang Tadak Pardala Leka Le Deva Karayana Tonda Madima Chando Yore. Chivan Nekabla Chasang Meba Chando Yora. Perna Tata Naranso Sa Yav Jibze Karayana Yang Meba Chando Yore. Tonda Madima Reta Nasol Toma Mebane Tadal talk about the Leja so Tom Madima Chasumare. Ta Lama Tine Tini Zondi Savan Nekabla Tondan Demba Lega Chago Yung Yore. Tondin Lago Yore. Tondan Demba Tava Tamjin Chamber Gombang Drup Tap. And it did tap the Kararis and the Jarvis song Pang the Yap on the Sanje Chomnin the song Yelly Yandone. Then it Tenchi Namne, Yang Tabar Tisam Savichiri, the Sanjego song, the Jinjong Kebe song Yav Tenchi to so Tisam Sasak Chichaga Yores. Te Tavakata Tenchi Namjang, Tening Aransoka, Lamaloni, Tisam Sigo Yuri, Tisam Sibit Nekabla, and it Chin Yingo Yores. San Yimba Kapsa, and it Jun Som Pango Yore, Jun Som Mapawayena, a chica Naso La Pinto Yungo Yomare, Chi Lichidala Deva Yena Yang, and it same chick Chidala Mewayena. Chikoya Yomare, they in the June number some pango race. June number some de pen no cab of a tower sondoa, no cab of Yawayena, and the Jew Cassilloyena, solo Mato Nang Ziyomare. They in the Nava Mate Cabot Tower June Sunguyore. And it's somebody Shabdur Tower Sunguyore, Sir Tisam 7 Egala, Samba Negala, no shop dorswana Sia Yomaris, Yela Manzan, Shabdur Tower Jones, Yela Zongo Grace, Tisam Tiyumate. Gombeti, Tokin Tavate, Songuyore, Sir Chin Yamni 7 Egala, Tokin Yamubata, Mandiva Goyores. And the Chin Nimba Negala, June number som. Then it that day, June som Layate, T. Sam Gomsom, Rekal Jana and Deca Yorola. Any Tipa Chibola, June some Janish, she had Chitan Parchit and Rusungo Yore, Tadan the days she saw Timoma Imba Rodo. The June some Panchen, Tetar, Tipa Namja, Majibu Gonit in Yamni Sigo Grace on then the Tisam Sigo Grace on what they she's a cheese somebody Chagayore.
And so this a third point of practicing, of relying on the Guru. Like it is mainly this making the offering. Most important is to make this offering of actually engaging in practice, in listening and contemplating and learning the Dharma. And in that we need to be diligent and not succumb to laziness and distraction. So on page 26, the importance of being diligent and not lazy and distracted. So abstain from wallowing in laziness and apply yourself to listening and contemplating that which is meaningful. So just making some offerings is also not enough. We also must practice and listen and contemplate, and abandoning all laziness, abandoning all distraction. And practicing that which is meaningful is that normally all the things that we do in our life in samsara are meaningless, because at the time of death they all are lost, they're all gone, they are meaningless at that point. And so now we, for example, collect all sorts of possessions, but in the end it will all be lost, so therefore ultimately it is meaningless. So it is meaningful to rely on the Guru with great diligence and without laziness. Because it is meaningful because it will lead ultimately to the state of liberation and all knowingness. So therefore we listen properly. And so this verse here talks mainly about learning, or the importance of learning and listen to the teachings, contemplating, hearing and contemplating those teachings, receiving the teachings. So it says we must listen properly to the teachings in the holy commentaries or shastras, which take as their witness and basis the actual words of the Buddha. And when we are listening to these teachings of the Buddha and so on, we should be free of the fault, free of three faults. So here it explains those three faults. So when we receive or listen to teachings, we must be free of three faults. If we have any of those three faults, if we listen to the Dharma with any of those three faults, then the teachings will not really benefit us. Then, for example, the body might be present in the teaching place, but the mind might not be present. So then we don't really understand the teachings. So therefore, first it says one should be free of the fault of being like an overturned jar, unreceptive to the words being spoken. So it is like an overturned jar, like a vessel. When it's overturned, you can't pour anything in. So when the mind is elsewhere, we cannot receive the teachings. And then next, we should also be free of the fault of being like a jar with a leak, unable to remember what we heard. And so when a jar has a leak, nothing stays inside. So we must actually also keep in mind, remember what was being said. And then thirdly, we must be free of the fault of being like a jar containing poison that contaminates the nutritive essence of the nectar poured into it. So that means we should listen to the teachings with an unafflicted mind. These are the three faults that we should be free of when we listen to the teachings. And so here, actually in this context, it can be referred to the listening, the contemplating, and the meditation. For the most part, it refers to the listening. So here it is uncommon to many of the other teachings. So here it seems to refer to the listening, and the contemplation.
Teolatani shizichila ta yaba chagiyore, chi yabate lamdup sor chagiyore. Chi titsane karinangu yore lamna ta sabduni ne chibu wimbate, si sabdun layate kada tenji. Any mengato so certine. Any ranye ke tibates ta nyamlin sigo yore, samu tomba nyeta jachewa. Sanjo samba nam kongdu chune sabduni ne chibu wimbate sungu yore. Ta ranye chibu lamna chibu te kechimbo chago yore, le tambo pa kanzala. Ranye chibu dewa yena namyen ka wangdu mondo wala pendo yungu yore. Tendo yena chibu sungu yore. Tendo yende yondin pinson ne andar zundi tsam sondawa. Yondin pinson sobat ne la zundi tsam gogo reyesi. Teni lamba damga na tom ne macho nyamsa ling gogo yore. Teni le tambo namyen ka wangsa dogo rey song yundi. Tambo ngaram so ranye chibu rutu wenpa tenga te kechimbo chaga yore. Tachi ya te se nyamling yabo ndawo che dejo yena. Eni ranye chibu wenpa la dego ya yomari ko ne drong dawo kawa dewa yena yang chi nyamling jinde nang togo yore. Le tambo pa kanza te so kabo yore. Ya te se ne wenpa ndawo dena yaga yore si. Te ya ne pinsom soba la dewa yena yang pento yaga yungu yore. Ne pinsom soba la ya te perna sanje da sanjo samba tamje ke sinje lab yawa. Ene tada nga so tachi sanje songde basa ne chin do ne chimbo to sola nyamnin nawa yena yaga yore songo yore. Kain sana sanje da sanjo samba namje sinje lab yawa saja yin chaga yore si. Tendre ke ne la de ne tene ngarang so zongdi somne dropa nyamlin nang ne zongdi tsam go gre song te song yawa re.
And then the next, the fourth point is how to practice the path. So that is once we have listened, once we have received those teachings and contemplated them, then also we need to put that into practice, the way to practice the path. It says, having found the teachings of the profound truth, practice in a solitary hermitage. So this term solitary is significant because in the beginning, for beginning practitioners, beginning practitioners are easily distracted. And so a solitary place where they are by themselves is more conducive to remain in a state of non-distraction. And so then generate diligence in such a place where all the perfect qualities are present. So we have received the instructions of the Guru, and then we isolate ourselves we seclude ourselves to such a perfect place. For beginning practitioners to remain free from distraction and be able to practice with diligence. And so, of course, if someone is undistracted and is never is always diligent, always practices, then of course it is not necessary to rely on an isolated place. Then those practitioners can practice really anywhere, in any place, for example, a town, a city, and so on. But that is more difficult for a beginning practitioner. So a place with all the perfect qualities, for example, is a place, it says, that has been blessed by being touched by the feet of Buddhas and bodhisattvas. So because Buddhas and bodhisattvas have blessed this place in the beginning, it is conducive, it is beneficial for practitioners to stay there and practice.
아니 다단데 간다르 시즈치 지바가 나로니 다낸 신예다 덴발라 ngaranso tini namnang chibdeng la sobo goni yogo gres techi ta namnang chibdeng goni yogne ene tada goni shi yawata tso song chane ta niba samzichi ya la ya tes shayong yin samzichi ye nuji chun sarwa songdo ene ne ta kanda chi ngaranso goya 차창 세 찬에 다 간데시 냠네 시고를 람 용데 땅아란수 그 녀몽 받아서 빵고 그래스 노지 좀 살고 그래스 애니 대인데 노지 좀 살와텔라 다치 이치여요래 고 치여 검상을 여요래스 애대인데 담보 마다진 치와삼 담존니가 레짐네 거분이 맥도서 로도 넘버 여검고 요래 저당다 렘 로도 남지 세븐 내가라 담존이 까와데 담보 용거 요르데 다다 네게 나노니 마다진 치와라야데 담보 용거도 단들 제용니 거름이 바 요마레 로도 남지텔라 까깔라 파처 빼자 파르치질라 담존이 까와데 담보 용거도 애니 대인데 다 삼즈치 이여 요한 남지 나니 담보 마다바 공거 요레 마다바 공디 간데지 공거 요르나 첸데 님보 마단 치와사 조데 첸들 차진 신데랑 가랑서 다다 첸들 차진 치모 요레 애니 대기 님보텔라 마다바 공고 그래 손 짜세나를 대송을 요런 첸데 님보 마단 치와사 손도와
So then we engage in practice. Beginning, it says here, with the right posture. So we assume the posture, 7-point posture of Vairochana. And then after we have gathered all those conducive circumstances to practice, we actually begin to practice. So that is the second point here on page 30, abandoning the faults of the vessel. So then once we have all the criteria complete, all the necessary things to practice complete, then we must actually practice to abandon the faults of this vessel we mentioned before. And so there's 4 ways to abandon the faults of the vessel. And those 4 ways are the 4 thoughts that turn the mind. It is the meditation on impermanence and death, the difficulty of finding the freedoms and endowments of the precious human life, karma, the law of cause and effect, and the defects of samsara. So normally, actually, in most other texts, the 4 thoughts begin with the difficulty to find a precious human body. And here, however, it begins with death and impermanence. So the order is not always the same. So here it begins with death and impermanence, and it explains first the reason why it is necessary to contemplate death and impermanence as an antidote to getting roped into this present life's dramas. Think about impermanence and death. So it is because we are attached, we cling and we are attached to the concerns of this life in order to rid ourselves, to become free from this attachment to this life, we must think about impermanence and death.
ngani tachi thoma mebani tata ke parda karesene sanje ke sala malaware jene 타치와 얘는 직딩 대발라 차송아래 존 타치가 요래 타치 초고 요래 직딩 대발라 차는 가서 산지지 고마 마타바래 단 직딩 대발라 차송아 얘는 텔 로도고 요래 직딩 대발라 로도고나 아니 다 치와 마타바도 공고 요래 텔 라스 테니 로도야 그 탑시 진 요마래 스티스나 치와 마타바도 담보송 용도.
And so since beginningless time up until this present life, why have we still not attained enlightenment? It is because we are attached to the pleasures of the ordinary worldly life. This is something we first have to resolve, clearly see. And so then in order to turn away this attachment, this mind that is so attached to the pleasures of this worldly life, we must contemplate death and impermanence. So actually, there is no higher, no greater method to turn away from this attachment to the ordinary pleasures than the thought on death and impermanence.
Ta zu cheshi te rakpa mata pa ta tawa mata pa zo nyi nana xie ke yore rakpa mata pa sen ene ngarang zo sen nu gin jikti mata pa nangkyu ke simji mata pa si rakpa mata pa khala xie ke yore tawa mata pa te teni kechek rere jeng den jirwa tem do ke yore kechek tawa ni yorne ene ngarang zo te ngi sing ke yo mare te ngi singwa yena ene tonye ke tonda te zo ha ko yung ke yore mata pa te yapo je ha ko wa yena tonye ke tong ha ko yung ke yore. So
if we would really elaborate on that extensively on impermanence, actually all the teachings of the Buddha are actually complete within the thought of the meditation on death and impermanence. But so in brief, in general, we can divide the thought on impermanence in two different types. There is the coarse impermanence and then the subtle impermanence. The coarse impermanence is the impermanence of the outer world, the outer universe, the vessel, and then also the impermanence of the inner sentient beings. That's the coarse impermanence. And then the subtle impermanence is the momentary change. Moment by moment, things are always changing. And that is what we do not recognize. If we actually recognize the subtle working of impermanence, the momentary change, actually then we will understand the meaning of emptiness. So therefore it is important to think about death and impermanence.
ane teo la ta samzu chi la niba tamjor thopkawa shia yen tamjor thopkawa tadel in the sonam thalani so tada ngaran so muli thop dewande ngar le sonam sa yawa mambo chi la tin thop yumari ma to pa ke ene le law tan muli thya yo mare ta te ma to samno tang ne gom go go yore ngaran so ne samno tang yong ne ka la ene mate tang tro ni drwa yen na samang go san de tang go ne samno tang do go yore tene male tro tang manga yore tro le yada tang manga yore yada le nya wa tang manga yore se sanje chom din de ge song yore do na lo la o te yin de ta gandar ngai song som de tene yan thori som le drwa yen na manga yore ngai song som de tene se samno tang yong de ma la ya de shin du nyong nyong cha de yore tene ma ge na lo ni ta dana ro chi song na ye ri ngane che chi shu yo ta ma yo wa ni tang drwa yen na pha che ma yong ki ma ne dao cha ge yu je re e te na yin je ke chi le shu de wa na lo ni yang chi yang da sin ki ene chi yang da sin ki na lo ni yang chi ngane che nyam lin sin ki ka se yo mi nyam lin se ne ka ngane che nyam se le ne to ba jo le chin ki ka za ka se chi le ku yo me te ne se sam no tang yong de ene mali la ya te chen de thok ka wa yin ba tam jor mali thok ka wa mali ke na lo ni tam jor chob je la ya te chen de ni par ka wa che cha ge yo re se.
Then on page 32, the second point is contemplating the difficulty of finding a precious human birth. And so it says in the root text, the body I have now was obtained through the power of my previous merit. And so we have obtained this precious human body only as a result of a great deal of karma, good karma and merit of the past. Other than that, it is not easy to obtain a precious human body. So we learn that, and then also we must contemplate that, really meditate on that by thinking about numbers, for example. When we think about the numbers, comparing the numbers of humans and animals, for example. And then when we think about the numbers of animals, there's even more numbers in the hungry spirit realm. And then there's even more beings in the hell realms. So this is what the Buddha explained in the sutras. And then there is many more beings in the 3 lower realms than in the 3 higher realms, and so on. And then we can already see there is only very few human beings. And as Rinpoche mentioned before today, then of those human beings, how many have actually entered the Dharma? And then actually there's more people who have not entered it than those who have entered it. And then those who have entered it, which are already few, how many of them are true Dharma practitioners? And then how many of them actually really cultivate the realization based on practice? And so it gets fewer and fewer. So generally, it is difficult to find a human body, but of that, it is even more difficult to find a precious human body with all those 18 freedoms and endowments.
And that's in the Tamdun that you got the Sondo Tata Naranzo Tamjor, Mali Top Yor, the Java Saman, the Toya Cabo Yores. The new Yinzan, Tata Top Devon Nekabla, the Yang Tabalamla, Zundisine. Tene tambichi doyate ke chimbo chaga yore maung palan dene toya kabore san dene samno tang gongo go yore teji ene tin jog de la samzi le sumba ta sumba te chiga yen chi sumba le jimde de ene ta tsache ge nalo la rangar mo jo le jo wang den ro song do ta gang da ngarang so ranjing ge song de wa ki yo mare sama le jimde ge wang den ro gore Naranzo Kang Dondu to your mares, Lemdeka on the Dogores. Any legimdeka on the Drawinza, Chick Don Gomne, Nyamli Mazen, Sheswayana Naranzo, any Naranzo Rang Semla Ramang Mato Yuindi, any Shiva Nekabne, Narzambo to the Dam Togomares, Nansong and Honyak in Yinkachimbo Yore, Song Yore. The Yinza Rang Semla Ramang Towachi Toyana. And then Garanzo Chiva Kaval Lena Yang Ramang Chayung Yure. Then the Le Jimde Layat Le Kewan the Road in the Le Layat Sipapo Naranso Simji Tamji Chayung Yure. Le Sipapo Aranso in the and the Le Jurjitaya de Naran Soso Lapala Yudevare. And the Nayan Naransu Le the Jurjitane Le Takandar Nansong Landoyak Le the Papang Done and the Le Yang Tabaji San Yang Torikin as a Chivalin Toya. Temena and it's rang semla Ramang Towaji Swayena, and it Jeva Kawachiwana Ranang Sola, Damga Leving Yores on the Tesson Javare.
And then it says, it is unlikely in that I will find these freedoms and endowments in future rebirths. So now we have obtained a precious human body, but it will be difficult to find such a body again. So now, since we have obtained this body, we must therefore apply it to practice the true path with great diligence, because in the future it will be difficult to receive this opportunity again. So that is the point here that we have to contemplate, really meditate on. And then next, the third point on page 34, cause and effect. It says, things do not happen arbitrarily. Everything follows the force of karma. So things do not happen arbitrarily is things do not happen for no reason. Things do not happen just according to our wishes. But everything follows the forces of karma. And so therefore, if we do not practice and we die with a mind that has no self-control, then we will not have the power to choose a good womb to enter, and we will be at the mercy of the negative karma we have accrued in this life. And so then we have no choice but to be born anywhere in the lower realms. So there is a danger that this will happen if we have not practiced in this life. And so that therefore, if we engage in practice and attain control of our mind, the freedom of our mind, then we will have like the freedom of being born in the higher realms, a choice of being born in the higher realms. So the one who creates this karma is no one else but ourselves. And we are sentient beings. We create our own karma. So our own karmas, whatever force of karma there is in our hands. It is our creation. So whether it is the karma that will plunge us into the miserable forms of existence, or that brings us to the higher states of existence. So that is up to whether or not we have cultivated the freedom of the mind, the control of the mind. That will determine the choice of where we will be born.
Oh yeah, tini ti oda kanna jimde dedok sosomi sonda tsaseng nalola ta le layate geva seva yin David deva yungwa tan mageva seva yin David dongha yungwa ini dedok layate soso yunguri mato pa ke lemden chongdo watende yo mare songu yore len chuya yo mare si tini le chu sawa yo mare songu yore chu sawa mepa chando yatende yo mare si kain sana le layate ta dekola domda na to so go ba jam na mambo songya yore khaje ke le tabare khaje ke matabare khaje ke tongni ri layan do ini len joksa ke yot so yang khaje ke king ke ten len jok yo khaje ke le joksa yot yora
yang kya kona
khaje ta domda na khaje ke khaje to ba so go yora domda na to so go pa na nyen dis ke domda na wa tang sem chamba ke domda na wa oma pa domda na wa to so ta len joksa ke yan daw de kha kha khelen ke yore
sem chamba oma den so
oma pa tang sem chamba tang 년티 세라나와 도데파 다데 마보 차노서로 가시 고랑소다 셈잠바가 나와 있는 낑지가라 박차데 야가 요라게 레 박차데 그래서 고대야 요래 야신도래 가서 고대오 요래 아니 다데 년티 세라나와도 그 레라야데 시원에 갈라 투바단 추무자브 제라야도 된도지 요래
가래 요래
투바당 추무자브 제라는 가서 무서다 르바가상노 땅의 동야 요마래 에나 된도지 용 요래 라고 요래다 델레 박차데 야기 투바당 추무자브 제 투바당 추무자브 제라는 지 요래 톱용 그래지 레 사우 내가라 톱는 거서 지레 송제 나오지 코레코바 메바 참으로 와
메바 차가 뭐래 레지로
된도지 투바 추무자브 제라야지 제직 톱용 그래 제 너도지 내 사트는 내다고 제다고 차가래 제다고 차티 제드 그다 레 차상된 쟁된 게지 레드 종된 게지 요르시 톰으로 와 레메바 참으로 와 추무자와 대야서 메바 참으로 와 다 오마바그 송 내가 레라야도 돈이 리 송고 요래 돈바니 임베 짐생레 때네 레 짐데 용고 요와 돈이 맹송의 때네 레 짐데 그 남자도 용 용토고 요 말 오마그 송와 예나 간선은 레라야데 템더와 띵진던 용 라야도 돈이 차고 요라 띵진던 용 마인 베 칭가 요바 마이노 데서 돈이 마인 베 칭가 요바 마이노 송고 요래 돈바니 마인 베 치요 말이지 다 레짐데 라야데야 돈이 차고 요래 간선은 고 돈바니 임베 짐생게 되네 렘데 용고 요라 강은 돈바니 롱와 텔라 탐지 롱와 예인시 강은 돈이 머롱와 텔라 탐지 롱마인 송고 요라 고 레짐데 라야데 돈이 라야데 템더 차고 요래 템더 예인송와 예나 이니 렘데 라야데 차 용고 요래 템더 마이나 따바 차한다고 요라 따바 예인송도 사와 메바 차한다고 요래 사와 메바
그래서 가셔 그래
따바
따바이나 가래
따바이는 사와시 도요 말아
네
데베체 도요 말아 가인스는 따발은 좋아요 말아 다데 우마가 르바 땅이 온데 레라야데 템더레스고 아니 따바 텐데제 셈자바가 라와나 예야 고야요 말레스 년티 도서 시와나 예게 추무자 제라야제 톱용 거리 라웨라 레라 대양 고야요 말레스 다 텐데 숨고 요르 마보다 망송되어
sen sambat le lashe lamaso
제당 내 하고 요런 가서 고야라
그냥 거예요 말에
다 우마가 라는 되게 요 말을 송요
오늘 오만 거예요 말아
우마가 켈랭 말에 빈지 켈랭 말 우마바
So then it says the positive and negative actions ripen into happiness and suffering respectively. This is the law of cause and effect. So it says karma does not happen randomly. So virtue will unmistakably lead to happiness and non-virtue leads to suffering. and it cannot be passed on to somebody else or sort of shared, and also it cannot expire in this after some time. And so regarding this karma that is accrued, there are different positions in the different tenet systems, and they're not all the same. So there is the different viewpoints according to the mind-only school, the Chitta Matra, and then there is the Madhyamaka, there is the Vaibhashika and the Sautantrika, and so on. The different the various tenet systems. For example, according to the Chitta Matra, the mind-only school, it is explained in probably most easy terms, and so this accruing of karma is explained that karma is placed as a habitual imprint into this alaya consciousness, this all-ground consciousness, and that is where it is stored. And then, according to the lower tenet systems, like the Vaibhashika, it says that once karma is accrued, it does not decline or spoil, but it accrues in a sort of a substantial thing. It becomes like a substance, a substance that we can't really see, but still like an actual substantial thing that is something that's actually there. So there's actually something, some substance that is obtained, that is accrued. Something substantial. And then the Madhyamaka refutes that all and says, the Madhyamaka is the middle way, and it says that karma is emptiness. So it is because everything is empty that there is karma, cause and effect. If everything wouldn't be empty, then also there couldn't be any karma, there could be no cause and effect. And that is because karma or cause and effect means interdependence of things. And because things are interdependent, they are empty. If they wouldn't be interdependent, if they would be permanent and self-sufficiently existent, they wouldn't be empty. So there is nothing that is not interdependent, and so therefore everything is empty. So they equalize. They say that karma is equivalent to emptiness. It is therefore also said, because all is empty, anything can arise. If all would not be empty, nothing could arise. And it is because everything is interdependent. If things would be permanent, then nothing could ever change. Then there's no action, no function that anything could perform. There would be no result of anything because everything is permanent, and due to that, nothing would ever change. Therefore, there would be no karma, no change, no interdependence. And so also the Madhyamaka refutes the mind-only school, and the on the basis of not pointing out the empty nature, but that there is something stored. And then also it refutes the Vaibhashika for saying that it creates some kind of substance when actually karma is emptiness.
Oh yeah, then they all that some chi yeba. Kowe nimei de ta ngaso samgora lodona ge de samza kirwa de di jiba talan kowe nimei la ge yore nyawa yada devjin tandro to so ta kawachi wa ina yang dongha ga rang ji cha de yare de na yin ngai song som tan ma dan la dan so thori som la ge yore ma dan la da la mei na gar chi jang song do to so yang dongha ga rang ji cha de yare Tang ngai song ne so che song yin cha dang ge dong ha yore te kong ge dong ha yore lo mong chin chi so ge dong ha ge nyong de yore song ge yore ene ta ya ma da la so ba ne so che song yin tap zu dan chim bo ge dong ha ta ge zer de yore sa sai na lo le song yi do ho te yin de ro wa re to ka wa che wa yin na yang ne dong ha ge rang yi ma to pa ge dewa den kin che yo ma re se dewa yo ma re so ya te ne ka ge dewa yo ma re song ge yo ma re Tartok dewa, don tambu dewa, tabu dewa, jirwa mepe dewa tende yo mares. In yon rowa matawa cha de yore sone. Ene gandar rowa rek tok nang jiwa lang sawa kanza yin sani zonde. Tat dongha dega manarwa kanza chi yo mares sone ta je yawari te yin de kowa dongha re sone. O te yin de tenan sam yaw yin.
And then page 36 is in the fourth point, contemplating the defects of samsara. And so that is wherever one is born in samsara, it all has the nature of suffering. So in the lower realms, in the hells, hungry ghost realm, and likewise the animal realm, there's only suffering. And likewise, there's only suffering in the three higher realms as well, in the realms of humans, jealous gods, and gods. So wherever one is born, there is beings only experience suffering. We experience the suffering of intense burning, of freezing, hunger, thirst, stupidity, and inability to communicate, as well as birth, death, and so forth. For example, in the God realm and the human realm, there is a constant quarreling and so forth. So there's only suffering. And so saying that does not mean that there is no temporary happiness, no temporary pleasure. There is some temporary pleasure in samsara. But what this is saying is that there is no actual, ultimate, lasting or unchanging happiness or ultimate well-being in samsara. That we cannot find, because even if we find some temporary pleasure or well-being, it will change, it is impermanent. So since we are born in samsara, once one is born anywhere in the 6 realms of samsara, there is no one at all that is not tormented by some form of suffering. So that's just the nature of samsara. So then we stop the teachings here.
Okay, so finish 4 thoughts. Thank you very much. Yes, we have a short dedication. So page 18, Emaho. Emaho, in a space is wondrous Buddha, limitless elimination, Amitabha with great compassionate Lord Jigten to his right and the gracious being of great mate Vajrapani to his left. They are surrounded by a retinue of innumerable Buddhas and bodhisattvas. Immediately are transmigrating from here, uninterrupted by other kinds of birth. May I and others take birth in that pure realm. Infinite, wondrous bliss and happiness known as Devachi. Thus may we behold the continuance of limitless illumination. I beseech all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions to bless that this aspiration prayer I have made be accomplished without hindrance. Tiyata Pinsandaya Avam Bodhinaya Soha Bodhicitta, the excellent and precious mind. Where is born may it arise, where is born may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Da jai guru tuat tala mare. Da tuat ya tesumudo. No time to ask question, but I don't think so. You have a question, right? I think you don't have any question.
I don't think.
Yes.
I want to know, because in the first page it says this text was requested by Jigten
Yes,
Sumgon
yeah.
to a Sakya.
Yeah.
But the text says the author is Jigten Sumgon. Who was the Jigten Sumgon or the Sakya?
This is the Jigten Sumgon disciple. So Jigten Sumgon talked, so he wrote. Used to be many yogis, they don't know how to write. Need somebody scholar to write down. So who knows this dharma, So that's it. Defects, everything, put together. Yeah, both is correct. Yeah. Okay, so thank you, everybody. Good night. Now everybody tired, right? Of course. Some tongue